The great chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with the usual noise of a busy day. Hundreds of different alien species sat in their seats talking about trade deals and border disputes. The air filled with clicks, whistles, and strange sounds that served as languages across the galaxy. In the back corner, almost hidden behind a pillar, sat the newest members of the council. The humans had been part of this group for 5 years now. They sat quietly in their small section, looking like children who were trying very hard to be good. Ambassador Sarah Chen adjusted her simple blue uniform and checked her notes for the 3rd time. She had that same patient smile she always wore during these meetings. Next to her, Captain Marcus Rodriguez sat perfectly still in his dress uniform. His hands were folded in his lap, and he looked like he was trying not to take up too much space. "The Terran integration assessment is next on our agenda," announced High Arbiter Zenth. The tall, crystal-like being's voice rang through the chamber like the sound of breaking glass. "We will review humanity's progress toward full council membership." Councillor Vextar, a large reptilian creature with green scales, let out what sounded like a laugh. "This should be quick," he said to the delegate next to him. "What have the humans done lately? Apologized for existing?" Other species around the chamber nodded or made their own versions of amused sounds. The humans had become something of a joke over the years. They were polite to the point of being silly. They never argued, never demanded anything, and always seemed grateful just to be included. Ambassador Chen stood up and walked to the speaking platform. She moved carefully as if she was afraid of bumping into something. "Honored council members," she began, "Earth is deeply grateful for another year of your patience and guidance." She pulled out a data pad and began reading from it. "We know our contributions have been modest. Our technology is still catching up to galactic standards. Our military is small and frankly not very impressive. We promise to try harder to be worthy of the Council's trust." Around the chamber, delegates exchanged knowing looks. This was exactly what they expected from the humans. Sweet, humble, and completely harmless. Earth had good raw materials and their people worked hard. But they were clearly one of the weaker species in the galaxy. "We appreciate your enthusiasm," said Councillor Vextar, not bothering to hide his amusement. "Perhaps in another decade or two you'll have something more substantial to offer." Ambassador Chen smiled even wider and nodded. "Of course, Councillor. We understand these things take time. We're just happy to learn from everyone." Captain Rodriguez remained silent during the entire presentation. He had never spoken during a council session. Most delegates assumed he was just there for show, maybe to make the humans feel more important. The assessment continued for another hour. Species after species gave their opinions about humanity's place in the galaxy. The words harmless, backward, and eager came up a lot. Nobody was mean about it, but nobody took the humans seriously either. Just as High Arbiter Zenth was about to call for a vote on humanity's status, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. Red lights flashed on every wall and a voice echoed through the space. "Priority alert! Priority alert! All council members report to emergency stations." The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates jumped from their seats, some flying toward the exits, others pulling out communication devices. The noise level went from busy to deafening in seconds. High Arbiter Zenth's voice cut through the panic. "Order, everyone remain in your seats. We need information before we react." A military aide rushed into the chamber, carrying a data tablet. The aide whispered something to the High Arbiter, whose crystal body began glowing brighter with stress. "Council members," Zenth announced, "we have received word of an attack on the peaceful garden worlds. The Vorthak hegemony has launched a surprise assault on the refugee colonies." The chamber fell silent. The garden worlds housed over 4 billion refugees from past wars. They were completely defenseless, filled with families who had already lost everything once. The aide spoke up, his voice shaking. "The hegemony has issued demands. They want the Council to surrender 3 core worlds within 48 hours, or they will begin orbital bombardment of the refugee populations." The silence broke as everyone started shouting at once. Military commanders began calculating fleet positions. Diplomatic corps members talked about negotiation options. Scientists discussed the technical problems of mounting a rescue mission. "The nearest Council fleet is 72 hours away," announced General Korth, the military advisor. "Even if we left right now, we couldn't reach the garden worlds in time." "We need to negotiate," said Ambassador Quill, whose species specialized in peaceful solutions. The hegemony must want something other than those three worlds. We can find a compromise. The Vorthak don't negotiate, General Korth replied grimly. Their military doctrine is total victory or total destruction. They've never taken prisoners. In the back corner, Ambassador Chen raised her hand politely. The gesture was so small that most people missed it. She waited patiently until someone noticed her. "Excuse me," she said in her usual soft voice. "I'm terribly sorry to interrupt, but could someone help us understand the situation better? We want to make sure we have all the facts." Counselor Vextar rolled his eyes. "What don't you understand, human? Bad aliens are attacking good refugees. We need to stop them but can't get there in time." "Oh, I see," Chen said, nodding seriously. "And how many ships does the hegemony have in this attack?" 12,000 vessels, answered General Korth, their entire third fleet. 12,000, Chen repeated, as if she was trying to remember the number. "That does sound like quite a lot." "And they're holding 4 billion people hostage?" "Yes," the general said, clearly getting impatient. "Forgive my ignorance," Chen continued, "but what exactly is the hegemony's military doctrine again?" "I want to make sure I understand." Several delegates groaned. This was typical human behavior, asking obvious questions while real problems needed solving. "They don't take prisoners," General Korth said slowly, as if talking to a child. "They believe in complete victory through overwhelming force. When they attack civilian targets, they kill everyone." Chen's smile never wavered, but something very small changed in her eyes. "It was so quick that nobody noticed it, I see," she said quietly. "And our fastest ships would take 72 hours to reach the Garden Worlds?" "Correct." Chen looked at Captain Rodriguez, who gave her a tiny nod. She turned back to the council. "Well," she said, "this is certainly a terrible situation. If it would help, Earth has a small defensive fleet in that area. Nothing fancy, just some patrol vessels. Would it be useful if we took a look at things? Just to buy time while you organize the real response?" The suggestion was so modest that most delegates barely heard it. What could a handful of primitive human ships do against the hegemony's finest? Yes, fine," said Counselor Vextar, waving his hand dismissively. "Send your little boats to observe. Try not to get in the way when the real military arrives." Ambassador Chen smiled brighter. "Thank you so much for the opportunity to help. We'll do our best not to be a bother." She gathered her notes and nodded to Captain Rodriguez. Together they walked toward the exit, moving with the same careful politeness they always showed. As the chamber continued to buzz with urgent planning, nobody paid attention to the two humans leaving. They were just going to do what humans always did, try to help in their small, harmless way. Nobody noticed that Captain Rodriguez's hands were no longer folded peacefully in his lap. Nobody saw the way Ambassador Chen's smile had become something different as she walked out of the chamber. The council continued their urgent debate, confident that they were the only ones who could handle this crisis. After all, what could the humans possibly do that would matter? They were about to find out. Ambassador Chen and Captain Rodriguez walked down the long hallway that led to the human delegation's private rooms. Their footsteps echoed softly on the polished floor. To anyone watching, they looked like the same humble humans who had just left the council chamber. But something had changed. Chen still wore her pleasant smile, but her shoulders were straighter now. Rodriguez's hands hung loose at his sides instead of being clasped behind his back. They moved with purpose, like people who knew exactly what they were going to do. The human delegation rooms were small compared to those of other species. Earth had never asked for more space, always claiming they were grateful for whatever they could get. The main room had basic furniture, a communication console, and a large screen that could connect to Earth. Chen closed the door behind them and activated the privacy shields. The walls hummed softly as the sound-dampening field kicked in. Now nothing they said could be heard outside the room. "Marcus," she said, and her voice was different now, still polite, but with an edge that had never been heard in council chambers. "Please open a secure channel to Earth Defense Command." Rodriguez moved to the communication console with quick, efficient movements. His fingers danced over the controls with the skill of someone who had done this many times before. "Channel open, ma'am. Full encryption active." The large screen flickered to life, showing a command center filled with busy people in military uniforms. A woman with gray hair and general stripes looked up from a tactical display. "Ambassador Chen," the general said with a crisp salute, "we've been monitoring the council feeds. What's the situation?" Chen sat down in front of the screen, her hands folded on the desk. General Morrison, we have a Code 7 scenario. The Vorthak hegemony is threatening 4 billion non-combatant refugees with orbital bombardment. The Council has formally requested our assistance. Understood. Are we cleared for authentic response protocols? Chen paused for just a moment. For 5 years, humans had been playing a very careful game. They had hidden their true capabilities behind smiles and apologies, letting the galaxy think they were harmless. That game was about to end. Affirmative, General. The Council has given us permission to intervene. The situation involves imminent genocide against civilian populations. Rodriguez stepped closer to the screen. Ma'am, what about our image management program? General Morrison looked thoughtful. Captain, we've been preparing for this day since we joined the Council. The President has been very clear. If we ever faced a situation involving crimes against innocent life, all restrictions would be lifted. Rules of engagement? Rodriguez asked. Protect the refugees at all costs, Chen replied. The Vorthak have declared no quarter intentions. They've made it clear they plan to kill everyone on those worlds. Standard self-defense protocols apply. What about our volume settings? The General asked with a slight smile. Chen's polite expression didn't change, but there was steel in her voice. The Council has given us authorization to assist. We should make sure we're heard clearly. General Morrison nodded. Understood. We'll maintain courteous communications with all non-hostile forces. As for our operational capability, well, it's been 5 years since we've had a chance to stretch our legs. On the screen, officers began moving with increased urgency. Displays lit up showing ship positions throughout human space. The General turned back to the camera. Ambassador, the Third Fleet is currently on patrol near the Garden Worlds. They've been operating under courtesy protocols, but they're fully capable. What are your orders? Chen looked at Rodriguez, who gave her a small nod. She turned back to the screen. General, please transmit the following message to Admiral Kim. Courtesy protocols are suspended. Repeat, courtesy protocols are suspended. The Council has requested our assistance with a hostile force threatening civilian populations. You are authorized to remind these people why Earth's children don't make threats. We make promises. The General's smile grew wider. It will be my pleasure, ma'am. Anything else? Keep the Council informed of our actions. Full transparency. And General, make sure our communications remain polite. We don't want anyone to think we've become rude. Of course, Ambassador. We wouldn't want to be impolite. The screen went dark, leaving Chen and Rodriguez alone in the small room. They sat in silence for a moment, both thinking about what they had just set in motion. 5 years. Rodriguez said quietly. 5 years of smiling and nodding and pretending to be harmless. It was necessary, Chen replied. We needed to understand the galaxy, learn who our friends were, figure out how everything worked. Knowledge first, then action. The Council still thinks we're helpless. Chen's smile turned thoughtful. They think politeness means weakness. They think being courteous means being unable to fight. They're about to learn the difference. Rodriguez checked his watch. The Third Fleet should reach the Garden Worlds in about 6 hours. That's assuming they don't push their engines too hard. Oh, I think Admiral Kim will find a way to arrive sooner than that, Chen said. She's been waiting 5 years to show what her ships can really do. Back in the Council chamber, the debate continued. Military leaders argued about fleet positions and logistics. Diplomats discussed negotiation strategies. Scientists calculated orbital mechanics and travel times. Nobody was talking about the humans anymore. They had been dismissed as irrelevant the moment they left the room. After all, what could Earth's tiny patrol fleet possibly accomplish? On the screens around the chamber, feeds from the Garden Worlds showed terrifying images. Vorthak ships hung in space like dark birds of prey, their weapons pointed at defenseless cities below. Refugee families huddled in shelters knowing that help was too far away. The hegemony's deadline was counting down. 46 hours remaining. We need more time, General Courteous said, studying tactical displays. Even if we mobilized every available ship right now, we couldn't mount an effective response in 48 hours. The Vorthak won't extend their deadline, Ambassador Quill replied sadly. They're not interested in negotiation. They want those 3 core worlds or they'll start killing refugees. Counselor Vexistar slammed his fist on his desk. This is intolerable. We can't let them butcher innocent people. Then what do you suggest? High Arbiter Zenth asked. We've discussed every option. We simply don't have the resources and position to mount a rescue. An aide approached the High Arbiter with a datapad. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet near the Garden Worlds. The humans. Bextar laughed bitterly. What could they possibly have to report? That they're running away? Put it through, Xanth ordered. A new voice came over the chamber's speakers. It was crisp, professional, and undeniably human. Council Command, this is Admiral Sarah Kim of the Third Fleet. We're approaching the Garden Worlds and wanted to provide a status update. General Korth leaned forward. Admiral, you should maintain a safe distance. This is a combat zone. Understood, General. We'll be very careful. We just wanted to let you know that we'll be arriving in approximately 4 hours. We'll try to stay out of the way while we assess the situation. 4 hours? That was impossible. Human ships shouldn't be able to reach the Garden Worlds for at least 8 hours, even pushing their engines to maximum. Admiral, General Korth said slowly, could you confirm your current position? Of course, General. We're currently 2 hours out from the Garden Worlds, making good time. The refugees will be happy to know help is on the way. The council chamber fell silent. How had human ships gotten so close so quickly? And why did the Admiral sound so confident? Admiral Kim, High Arbiter Xanth said, please remember that the Vorthak hegemony has 12,000 ships in that system. Your small patrol force should not engage. Simply observe and report. Absolutely, High Arbiter. We'll be very careful not to start any trouble. We're just going to have a polite conversation with the hegemony fleet. Sometimes misunderstandings can be cleared up with good communication. The transmission ended, leaving the council members staring at each other in confusion. Did that sound strange to anyone else? Councillor Vextar asked. General Korth was studying his tactical displays with growing concern. Something's not right. Human ships aren't that fast, and their admiral sounded far too confident for someone about to face impossible odds. High Arbiter Xanth's crystal body flickered with uncertainty. Perhaps we should monitor the situation more closely. None of them realized that in 4 hours, everything they thought they knew about humanity was about to change forever. Admiral Sarah Kim stood on the bridge of the ESS Determined Courtesy, watching the tactical display with calm eyes. Around her, the crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. After 5 years of pretending to be simple patrol officers, they were finally about to show what Earth's Third Fleet could really do. Status report, Kim said softly. All ships report ready. Admiral, replied Commander Hayes from the tactical station. We're maintaining courtesy formation and broadcasting standard peaceful intentions. Kim smiled. Courtesy formation was what other species saw when they looked at human fleets. Ships spread out in loose, seemingly disorganized patterns that looked like patrol vessels trying not to get in anyone's way. What they didn't realize was that this was actually a highly advanced combat formation, designed to maximize firepower while appearing harmless. Time to target? 3 hours 42 minutes at current speed. Weapons status? Commander Hayes checked his board. All systems green. Point defense networks online. Main batteries charged and ready. Kinetic weapons loaded. We're ready for whatever they throw at us. Kim nodded. The Third Fleet consisted of 18 ships that the rest of the galaxy thought were lightly armed patrol vessels. They looked the part. Clean lines, minimal visible weaponry painted in friendly blue and white colors. Even their names were designed to sound non-threatening. Determined Courtesy, Polite Request, Gentle Reminder. Humble Suggestion, but appearances could be very deceiving. Open a channel to the fleet, Kim ordered. Channel open, Admiral. All ships, this is Admiral Kim. As of 30 minutes ago, courtesy protocols have been suspended by direct order of Earth Defense Command and Ambassador Chen. For the first time in 5 years, we are authorized to operate at full capability. She paused, looking around at her crew. Every face showed the same mix of determination and anticipation. Our mission is simple, she continued. There are 4 billion innocent people on those worlds below who are about to be murdered by the Vorthak hegemony. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen. We will protect those refugees, and we will do it in a way that reminds the galaxy who we really are. The fleet channel crackled with acknowledgments from 18 ship captains. Remember, Kim added, we maintain polite communications at all times. Just because we're taking the gloves off doesn't mean we need to be rude about it. Kim closed the fleet channel and turned to her communications officer. Lieutenant Park, please open a channel to the Vorthak command ship. Channel open, Admiral. Kim straightened her uniform and put on her most pleasant smile. Vorthak Fleet, this is Admiral Sarah Kim of the Earth vessel, Determined Courtesy. I'm afraid we need to have a little chat about your current activities. The response came back almost immediately. The voice was harsh and filled with contempt. Human vessel, you are in a combat zone. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. We have no time for your pathetic species. Kim's smile never wavered. Now that's not very neighborly. I understand you're having some kind of disagreement with the people on those worlds below. Perhaps we could discuss this like civilized beings? There is nothing to discuss. The Council has 47 hours to surrender 3 core worlds, or we begin orbital bombardment. Any interference will result in the immediate destruction of all refugees. Oh my, Kim said, her voice full of concern. That does sound serious. But I'm afraid I can't let you hurt those innocent people. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to power down your weapons and withdraw from this system. The Vorthak Admiral's laughter was like the sound of grinding metal. You dare threaten us? You have 18 primitive vessels against 12,000 of the finest warships in the galaxy. Your species is weak, human. Your ships are toys. Your threats are meaningless. Kim looked around her bridge. Her crew was watching her with expectant expressions. They had been waiting 5 years for this moment. Sir, she said, her polite tone unchanged, I'm going to give you one opportunity to reconsider. We'd really prefer not to embarrass you in front of your crews. Embarrass us? The Admiral's voice rose to a roar. Destroy these insects. Show them what happens when inferior species challenge the hegemony. Kim sighed and shook her head sadly. Well, we tried to be nice about it. Lieutenant Park, please send a message to the fleet. Gloves off, people. Let's show them what Earth's children can do when someone threatens innocence. She turned to Commander Hayes. Target their weapon systems only. I want them alive to tell others what happened here. With pleasure, Admiral. Around the Determined Courtesy, the other 17 ships of the Third Fleet began to change. What happened next would have been impossible to understand for anyone who thought they knew human technology. The ships that had appeared to be simple patrol vessels began revealing their true nature. Sections of hull that looked like normal plating slid away to expose weapon ports. Engines that had seemed adequate for patrol work suddenly blazed with power that should have been impossible for their size. Defensive shields snapped online with strength that made the sensors scream. But the most dramatic change was in how the ships moved. For 5 years, human vessels had moved through space with careful, predictable patterns. They flew like cargo haulers or passenger ships, steady, safe, and slow. Now they moved like hunting sharks. The Determined Courtesy rolled to starboard and accelerated forward in a maneuver that defied everything the Vorthak knew about physics. The ship's momentum carried it through a spiral that brought it directly behind 3 enemy vessels before they could even begin to turn. Vorthak destroyers 7 through 9, Kim said into her comm. I'm really sorry about this, but we're going to need you to power down your engines. Please don't take it personally. 3 precise energy beams lanced out from the Determined Courtesy. They struck the enemy ship's engine cores with surgical precision, disabling them without destroying their life support systems. The destroyers went dark and began drifting. What? The Vorthak Admiral's voice carried shock and disbelief. How did they move so fast? Our sensors show those ships shouldn't be capable of those maneuvers. Kim's voice remained pleasant and apologetic. Oh, I'm sorry if we surprised you. We've been practicing. Lieutenant Park, please ask Captain Rodriguez on the humble suggestion to disable that cruiser that's targeting the refugee ship, and remind him to apologize afterward. Throughout the system, the 18 ships of the Third Fleet began their work. They moved through the Vorthak formation like wolves among sheep, but wolves that said please and thank you as they dismantled their enemies. The polite request performed an impossible loop that brought it under a Vorthak battleship. Attention battleship crew, came the captain's voice over the comm. We're terribly sorry, but your weapons are pointed at innocent people. We're going to have to ask you to reconsider. The battleship's main guns went silent as precisely targeted shots disabled their power systems. The gentle reminder slid between 2 cruisers that were moving to flank a refugee evacuation ship. Cruiser captains, we really hate to interrupt, but those people are trying to evacuate. Could you please give them some space? Both cruisers found their navigation systems disabled and began spinning slowly in place. Back on the Determined Courtesy, Kim watched the tactical display with satisfaction. Her ships were performing exactly as trained. Years of secret exercises and hidden capabilities were finally being put to use. Admiral, Commander Hayes reported. We've disabled 60% of their fleet. No enemy casualties, all life support systems intact. The Vorthak are trying to retreat, but we're staying with them. Kim nodded. Excellent. Open a channel to their admiral again. Channel open. Vorthak Admiral, this is Admiral Kim again. I hope you're starting to understand that we'd really prefer to handle this peacefully. Would you like to discuss a withdrawal from this system? The response came back as a strangled roar of rage and disbelief. This is impossible. Your ships cannot do this. Our intelligence report said human technology was primitive. Kim's smile was genuinely apologetic. Oh, I'm so sorry about the confusion. You see, we've been operating under what we call courtesy protocols for the past 5 years. We didn't want to appear threatening or aggressive, but when someone threatens innocent people, well, we have to set politeness aside for a moment. This cannot be your full capability. Kim looked around her bridge, then back at the display showing thousands of disabled enemy ships drifting helplessly in space. Oh goodness no, she said sweetly. This is maybe 10% of what we can actually do. We're being very careful not to show off. In the council chambers, complete silence had fallen. Every delegate from every species stared at the tactical display showing impossible images from the garden worlds. The screen showed human ships moving in ways that defied known physics, disabling Vorthak vessels with precision that seemed almost casual. This cannot be real, whispered Counselor Vextar. His green scales had turned pale, and his hands shook as he watched the feeds. On the main screen they could see Admiral Kim's face as she spoke to the Vorthak Admiral. She looked exactly the same as Ambassador Chen, polite, pleasant, and apologetic. But the ships around her were performing miracles of engineering and combat that shouldn't have been possible. General Korth, High Arbiter Zenth said, his crystal body flickering rapidly with stress. Please explain what we're seeing. General Korth was studying multiple displays, his face growing more confused by the moment. I don't understand it, sir. Those ships were in our technical database. We classified them as basic patrol vessels. Light shields, minimal weapons, standard engines. Then how are they doing this? Demanded Ambassador Quill. I don't know, Korth replied. Either our intelligence was completely wrong, or the humans have been lying to us for 5 years. On the screen, they watched as a human ship called the Humble Suggestion performed a maneuver that seemed to fold space around itself. It appeared behind a Vorthak battleship and disabled its weapons with a single, precisely aimed shot. Vorthak battleship crushing victory, came the captain's polite voice over the comm. We're terribly sorry, but your weapons are making people nervous. We've taken the liberty of helping you power them down. Hope that's okay. Counselor Vextar made a choking sound. They're apologizing while they destroy an entire fleet. They're not destroying anything, General Korth said, his voice filled with wonder. Look at the casualty reports, 0. They're disabling every ship without killing anyone. That level of precision should be impossible. High Arbiter Zenth turned to the aide who handled human affairs. Bring me their technical specifications. All of them. Every document they submitted when they joined the council. The aide rushed away and returned with a massive datapad. Sir, here are the human files. They submitted 14,000 pages of technical documentation. 14,000 pages? Zenth's voice rose in disbelief. Who read all of this? The aide looked embarrassed. Well, sir, we assigned the summary to the junior staff. They reported that human technology was quaint and primitive. We didn't think the details were important. Get me those summaries, Zenth ordered. As the aide pulled up files, the battle continued on the main screen. The human fleet had now disabled over 8,000 Vorthak ships. The remaining enemy vessels were trying to retreat, but the humans stayed with them, politely asking them to reconsider their life choices. Found the summary, sir, the aide said. It says here, human vessels appear to be basic patrol craft with minimal offensive capabilities. Ships are designed for peaceful exploration and light defense only. Weapon systems are primitive kinetic and energy-based designs. Propulsion is standard reaction drive. Defensive capabilities are minimal. Overall assessment, harmless but eager to please. Zenth's crystal body went completely dark for a moment. Who wrote this assessment? Analyst Crixton from the Preliminary Species Evaluation Department. Get him here now. While they waited, the tactical display showed the human fleet completing its impossible task. 12,000 Vorthak ships and an entire armada that had terrorized half the galaxy now drifted helplessly in space. Not one of them had been destroyed. Not one life had been lost. But every single ship was disabled and defenseless. Admiral Kim's voice came over the comm again. "Vorthak Admiral, we've finished our little discussion with your fleet. We hope everyone is comfortable. We've made sure your life support systems are all working properly." The Vorthak Admiral's response was barely coherent. What are you?" "We're humans," Kim replied cheerfully. "We're very sorry this had to happen, but you were threatening innocent people. That's something we just can't allow." Analyst Crixton arrived in the council chamber looking nervous. He was a small furry creature who specialized in technical assessments. You wanted to see me, High Arbiter?" "Explain this," Zenth said, pointing at the screens showing the aftermath of the battle. "You classified these ships as harmless." Crixton looked at the displays and his fur turned white with shock. But they are. I read their specifications. Basic hulls, simple weapons, standard engines. "Show me," Zenth ordered. Crixton pulled up the human technical documents on his datapad. "See right here. Hull composition, steel and ceramic composites. Weapons, kinetic projectiles and focused energy beams. Engines, chemical and ion propulsion. Shields, electromagnetic barrier systems." General Korth snatched the datapad and studied it closely. "These specifications. They're completely accurate. But look at the performance numbers." He showed the pad to the other council members. Maximum velocity, 0.01 light speed. Weapon range, 10,000 kilometers. Shield strength, Class 3 deflection capability. "Those are the numbers for basic patrol ships," Ambassador Quill said. "How did they just defeat an entire armada?" General Korth was reading deeper into the documents. Wait a minute. Look at this. The specifications are accurate, but look at the power systems." He highlighted a section of the technical readout. "Their reactors are rated for... This can't be right. This says their power output is 50 times higher than anything we've ever seen." "That's impossible," Crixton squeaked. "No ship that size could contain a reactor that powerful." "And look at this," Korth continued. "Their computer systems. The processing power listed here it's like having a planetary defense network on every ship." Zenth's crystal body began glowing brighter as understanding dawned. "They didn't lie to us. They told us exactly what their ships could do. We just didn't understand what those numbers meant." On the screen, Admiral Kim was speaking to the Council directly now. "Council Command, this is Admiral Kim reporting. We've successfully neutralized the Vorthak threat. All refugee populations are secure. No casualties on either side." "Admiral," General Korth said, his voice shaking. How did you do this?" Kim smiled that same pleasant apologetic smile they'd seen from humans for 5 years. "Oh, we just used our standard patrol vessels, General. Everything we did today was within the specifications we filed when we joined the Council. But your ships moved faster than our records indicated they could." "Oh, that," Kim said, looking slightly embarrassed. "Well, 0.01 light speed is our cruising velocity. We can go much faster when we need to. We just didn't want to waste fuel showing off. And your weapons? 10,000 kilometer range is for precision work like we did today. When we need to engage targets at longer range, well, that's what our extended range systems are for." Counselor Vextar found his voice. "Extended range systems? Of course. We couldn't defend our territory with short-range weapons only. Our long-range systems can engage targets at about, 3 light-years distance. Give or take." The council chamber erupted in chaos. 3 light-years? That was impossible. No weapon could function across interstellar distances. High Arbiter Zenth raised his hand for silence. "Admiral Kim, are you saying that your ship's true capabilities are far beyond what we believed?" Kim looked genuinely confused. "True capabilities? Sir, everything we used today was in our technical specifications. We haven't used any hidden systems or secret weapons. This was just our 3rd Fleet doing standard patrol work." "3rd Fleet?" General Korth asked weakly. "Yes, sir. We have 12 active fleets. The 3rd is actually one of our smaller ones. We didn't want to send too many ships and look like we were trying to take over." The silence in the council chamber was complete. 12 fleets. If the 3rd Fleet could disable 12,000 enemy ships, what could all 12 fleets do together? Admiral Kim seemed to notice the quiet. "Is everything all right? Did we do something wrong?" "We tried very hard to be careful and not cause any unnecessary damage." Ambassador Chen's voice came over the comm as she joined the conversation from her private chambers. Admiral Kim performed exactly as requested. We neutralized the threat to civilian populations while maintaining our commitment to minimal force. High Arbiter Zenth finally found his voice. Ambassador Chen, why didn't you tell us about your true military capabilities? Chen looked genuinely surprised. But we did tell you, High Arbiter. Every technical specification, every capability report, every system description, it was all in our application documents. We were completely transparent. But you thought politeness meant weakness, Chen said gently. You thought because we were courteous and humble, we must be helpless. We've been operating under courtesy protocols because we wanted to be good neighbors. But we never said we were defenseless. The implications of what they'd learned began to sink in. For 5 years, the Council had been dismissing humanity as harmless newcomers. But the truth was that Earth possessed military technology beyond anything in known space, and they'd been politely pretending to be weak. What you saw today, Admiral Kim added, was about 10% of our actual capability. We didn't want to show off or make anyone uncomfortable. 10%. The Council members looked at each other with new wonders. 3 hours later, Ambassador Chen and Captain Rodriguez returned to the Council chamber. Chen carried the same data pad she always brought, and she wore the same polite smile she'd had for 5 years. Rodriguez walked beside her with his hands clasped behind his back, looking like he was trying not to take up too much space. But everything had changed. As they entered the chamber, conversations stopped. Every delegate turned to watch them walk to their small corner section. The looks they received were very different from the amused dismissal of the morning. There was respect now, and more than a little fear. Chen took her place at the podium just as she had thousands of times before. Honored Council members, she began in her usual soft voice. We wanted to provide a brief report on the situation at the Garden Worlds. The chamber was completely silent. Even the constant background noise of translators and communication devices seemed muted. I'm happy to report that all refugee populations are safe, Chen continued. The threat has been neutralized and evacuation ships are already beginning rescue operations. No lives were lost on either side. High Arbiter Zenth leaned forward. Ambassador Chen, the Council would like to discuss what we witnessed today. Of course, Chen replied. We're always happy to answer questions. Counselor Vextar stood up slowly. His voice was much quieter than usual. Ambassador, your ships, they moved in ways that should have been impossible. They disabled an entire armada without taking any damage. How? Chen looked genuinely confused. I'm sorry, Counselor, but I don't understand the question. Our ships performed exactly as designed. All of their capabilities were clearly documented in our Council application. But we were told your technology was primitive. Chen blinked in surprise. Primitive? Who told you that? We submitted 14,000 pages of complete technical specifications. Every system, every capability, every performance parameter. We've always been completely transparent about our abilities. General Korth pulled out his datapad. Ambassador, our analysis concluded that your ships were basic patrol vessels with minimal capabilities. May I see that analysis? Chen asked politely. Korth handed her the pad. Chen read it quickly, her eyebrows rising higher with each line. When she finished, she looked up with an expression of genuine concern. Oh my, she said. I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. This summary is, well, it's not wrong exactly, but it's missing some important context. She handed the pad to Captain Rodriguez, who read it and shook his head sadly. What kind of context? Asked High Arbiter Zenth. Chen looked around the chamber as if making sure she had everyone's attention. Well, for instance, this report says our maximum velocity is 0.01 light speed. That's true for our cruising speed. We use that velocity for normal patrol operations because it's fuel efficient and doesn't stress our engines. And your actual maximum speed? General Korth asked. Oh, much faster, Chen said casually. Our ships can reach about 0.8 light speed when we need to. The determined courtesy made the trip to the Garden Worlds in about 40% of the estimated time, because Admiral Kim pushed her engines to emergency speed. The Council members exchanged glances. 0.8 light speed was faster than anything in known space. Your weapon systems, Ambassador Quill said. The report said they had a range of 10,000 kilometers. For precision work, yes, Rodriguez spoke up for the first time. When you're trying to disable specific systems without hurting anyone, you need to get close. Our long-range weapons can engage targets at considerably greater distances. How much greater? Zenth asked. Rodriguez looked at Chen, who nodded. About 3 light years, sir. Give or take a few million kilometers depending on stellar interference. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Weapons that could strike across interstellar distances were beyond anything the Council had imagined possible. Chen raised her hand for quiet. I think the real misunderstanding is about our military philosophy. You seem to have assumed that because we're polite and peaceful, we must be defenseless. That's not how humans think about things. What do you mean? Asked Counselor Vextar. Chen's smile became thoughtful. Humans have a saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. It means that the strongest people don't need to shout or threaten. They can afford to be polite because they're confident in their ability to handle problems if they arise. Are you saying you've been hiding your strength? Xanth asked. Not hiding, Rodriguez corrected. We've been operating under courtesy protocols. We didn't want to appear threatening or aggressive. Humans learned long ago that showing off your weapons tends to make people nervous. Chen nodded. We wanted to be good neighbors. We wanted to learn about galactic civilization and find our place in it. Starting fights or intimidating people wouldn't have helped with that goal. But today, someone threatened to commit genocide against 4 billion innocent people, Chen said, and for the first time her voice carried a harder edge. That's something humanity simply cannot tolerate. When innocent lives are at stake, we set politeness aside. High Arbiter Xanth's crystal body flickered rapidly. Ambassador, you said that what we saw today represented 10% of your actual capabilities. What does 100% look like? Chen and Rodriguez exchanged a look. Chen's smile became almost apologetic. We'd really prefer not to demonstrate that, she said quietly. Let's just say that what you saw today was our 3rd fleet, which is one of our smaller formations operating under strict rules of engagement designed to minimize harm. We have other fleets and we have other tools that we hope we'll never need to use. How many fleets do you have? General Courteous asked. 12 active fleets, Rodriguez replied. Plus our home defense forces, our rapid response units, and our special operations groups. The numbers were staggering. If one of their smaller fleets could disable 12,000 ships, what could all of humanity's military do? If fully mobilized. Why? Counselor Vextar asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Why build such powerful forces if you're peaceful? Chen's expression became sad. Because peace isn't the natural state of the universe, Counselor. Evil exists. There are people who would hurt innocents for profit or pleasure or power. Good people have a responsibility to be strong enough to stop them. We don't want to fight anyone, Rodriguez added. But we will always be ready to fight if fighting is what it takes to protect innocent life. Ambassador Quill leaned forward. What happens now? How does the Council work with this knowledge? Chen brightened. Exactly the same way it always has. We're still the same humans we've always been. We still want to be good neighbors and contribute to galactic civilization. We still believe in diplomacy and cooperation. But you're also the most powerful military force in known space, Xanth pointed out. That doesn't change our goals, Chen replied. If anything, it reinforces our responsibility to use that strength wisely. Humans learned a long time ago that having power means you have a duty to protect those who can't protect themselves. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from dozens of species. We hope this doesn't change our relationships with Council members. We're still the same humans who joined 5 years ago. We're not pretending to be helpless anymore. The silence stretched for a long moment. Then High Arbiter Xanth spoke. Ambassador Chen, the Council would like to formally thank humanity for their intervention at the Garden Worlds. Your actions saved 4 billion lives. It was our pleasure, Chen replied. Literally. There's nothing humans enjoy more than helping people who need help. We would also like to discuss expanding humanity's role in Council security operations. Chen tilted her head thoughtfully. We'd be happy to discuss that. But we should probably mention that Earth's Defense Council has already decided to increase our patrol presence in vulnerable sectors. Just routine peacekeeping, you understand? Routine peacekeeping, Xanth repeated. Yes. We'll try to stay out of everyone's way. Oh, and we wanted to pass along a message from the Vorthak Admiral. Apparently, after thinking things over, the hegemony has decided to pursue diplomatic solutions to their territorial disputes. How wonderful that everyone's being so reasonable. Counselor Vextar made a sound that might have been laughter or a sob. I imagine they're feeling very diplomatic right now. Chen's smile was bright and innocent. Humans have always found that most problems can be solved through honest communication and mutual respect. It's amazing how reasonable people become when they're given the chance to think things through properly. As the session ended, delegates filed out of the chamber in unusual quiet. Conversations were held in whispers, and more than one species representative was seen making urgent calls to their home governments. The humans gathered their things with the same careful politeness they'd always shown. But now everyone understood what they were really looking at. These weren't harmless newcomers grateful for scraps of acceptance. These were the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and they'd spent 5 years patiently waiting for the rest of the universe to figure out how to be neighbors. Ambassador Chen paused at the chamber door and turned back to address the room one final time. "Oh, one more thing," she said cheerfully.